Greetings! I am Zerrich, and if you guys notice me playing on a new character, I always start by setting up some new macros based off ones I already have saved in my General Macros tab. These are most likely mouse over macro scripts and cast at cursor scripts. I do not play using Healbot or Voodoo. It was always my mindset to heal without the help of add-ons. I just find it much more fun that way. I use macros to enhance my DPS and tanking gameplay too. Why do macros over the mouse over setup Blizzard gives in the game settings? But my macros aren't all for healing. In the game settings, you must press and hold a support key like Alt, Shift, or Control, and then the skill. But if I set up my macros like I have been, all I need to do is hit a keybind without holding down something like that first. Besides, I use keybinds Shift 123, Alt 123, and Control 123 anyway, so Blizzard's method would not hold up well for my setup. There are three kinds of macros I set up for my characters: mouse over harm, mouse over help, and cast at cursor. I will be going over one extra one that I don't use, but many people like to use it because it doesn't require aiming, and that is cast at player. First, let me explain mouse over harm. Mouse over harm is preferably put on a ranged spell or skill that is meant to cause damage to an enemy. But there are a couple of special cases like a dispel, or an interrupt, or even a taunt. What this does is you just hover your cursor over an enemy character you want to cause harm to, and press the keybind. The skill will go off on the cursor hovered enemy as a priority over the character you have selected as a target. Next, I will explain mouse over help. Mouse over help is basically used on spells that help friendly targets. Okay, how you use this macro is you simply hover your cursor over an ally, and then you hit the keybind and you'll heal, buff, or remove a debuff on that ally. Healers have it easy, as they can use party or raid frames, instead of searching for an injured player on the screen. You can set a focus, then target another enemy, then you can cast harmful spells on an enemy while supporting your group with healing spells and buffs. It may sound hard to do, but once you put it into practice and get good at it, you can become a very powerful healer, or an augmentation evoker. Next, I will explain the at cursor macro. At cursor would refer to the AoE circle that you get when you input a spell or skill and then have to aim with an AoE circle and then hit the same spell or skill again to cast it. If you use the at cursor macro, you turn this 3-step process into a 1-step process. When you hit the AoE spell or skill, it will go off at the center of wherever your cursor is, or in the direction of where your cursor is, and it will land within the skill's max range. A good example of this would have to be when you're using a movement skill, like the Warrior's Heroic Leap or the Vengeance Demon Hunter's Infernal Strike. This applies to all AoE skills that give you an AoE aim circle. There's no need to set help or harm. Be aware that you can very well miss with this macro, and use your AoE in the back corner or next to the group of enemies that you are fighting. I do it all the time, but I just laugh it off and move on. Okay, now the macro I don't use, but you are free to pick it up and use it if you do not trust yourself with cursor aiming. Here is the at player explanation. In some ways, this can be harder to use than the at cursor, since you have to aim your character at the location in which you want the AoE to go off at. What this macro does is it casts your AoE centered on your character. I keep each type of macro saved to my General Macros tab, so I can simply copy and paste, then edit in the character specific macros. Alright, you know what, to make it easier on yourself, I want everyone who wishes to try this out to save the 4 macros in their General Macros tab. Leave them blank as they are, but when you need to make a new macro for the future character, these macros will be here in this tab for you to copy and paste into your character macro tab when you decide you want to turn that spell or skill into one of these macros. I have already listed all the pros of each macro, but here are the cons of my macro setup. It takes a lot of time at first to make all the macros for each character. In my eyes, I feel it is well worth it. As I said before, you could miss aim and press the macro and completely miss the mark. But hey, sometimes it happens. Especially if your tank likes to move things out of AoEs anyway. Another con is there are a few add-ons that collect so many errors in the background that they somehow block the use of keybinds. The fix to this is either to disable the add-on that Blizzard says is blocking it, or do a quick /reload to refresh the add-on and the keybinds can be used again. But the errors will still collect again and eventually block you from using the keybind again. So it's better to just find an add-on alternative to the add-on that keeps messing up. Bagnon, I'm looking at you. Okay, that is my main macro setup for World of Warcraft, and if the macros work in other versions of the game, I try to set them up there too. Thank you guys for watching. Please hit that like button and subscribe if you would like to be notified when more of my content is released. Zerrich out.